With the Chicago Bears' second preseason game coming up, we're going to talk about the things to look out for most in that game. Plus, we're going to discuss how Keenan Allen and the Chicago Bears wide receiver coach is challenging Rome Odunze to step up his game and his role even further. We're going to talk about all that, plus Ryan Poles' moves and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. So I want to talk about things to look out for, right? We're heading into the Bears' second preseason game, a game in which we are going to see more of the starters. Now, they're still up in air, reportedly, if Caleb Williams is actually going to play in that game or not. And I actually think if the Bears do completely sit Caleb Williams again, Bears fans are going to damn near right. You can't set up the way that the Hard Knocks and the Bears set up Caleb Williams, the hype around that, using the Alan Parsons project, the Bulls announcer and everything, and then turn around and not play him in that next preseason game at all. Can we get a series or two? Right? But without that said, things to kind of look out for in the game. And with the starters being in there, regardless if it is Caleb Williams playing at quarterback or not, but you have the rest of your starters playing some snaps in that, it comes down to how well does the team play, especially that offensive line, right? Who comes out on top in the Coleman, Shelton, Ryan Bates battle at that starting center position? Is it because Nate Davis isn't healthy and Bates is over at the right guard, or is it because of, whoever's starting just because we have everybody fully healthy? That's the question that's going to be there. So, that offensive line and the production that they're going to bring is something that I'm looking out for. The offensive line didn't perform too bad in that first preseason game, but we all know that was both teams using basically the shell of who their teams could be. So it's not really a good game to judge it. But with the questions around center, the health questions around Nate Davis, Tevin Jenkins, even so much as to Darnell Wright recently as well, to see how that offensive line performs in their snaps, no matter how many of the starters are out there or not, that's going to be an important part to watch in that game, I feel like. And then as far as watching the continued balance between the run and the pass game on the offensive side of the ball, I think that's good. We had a nice balance with it. We went what started working. We started becoming more pass heavy as that pass game really started to be able to take advantage of that defense. And to see if that continues for the team, right? Is it more so that we're going to be just more of a pass heavy team, more of a run heavy team? Are we really going to continue to allow how we're affecting and how we're taking advantage of that defense be the determining factor in that? But to look out for that, considering the talent that we have in both the wide receiver rooms and the running back side of the ball, to see what that balance is going to be like, because we have a nice amount of talent there to where you could really go either way in either direction on it. So you can have your games where you're running Roschon Johnson, Khalil Herbert, and of course DeAndre Swift a lot. You can have your games where, because of the wide receivers and the tight ends that are going to be used in that passing game as well, you can air it out a lot more. So that continued balance of that offense is going to be something to watch out for as well. And also, who continues to show out in that wide receiver room, right? Like Colin Johnson was the story in that first preseason game. The little bit that we're going to hopefully get to see from Rome and everybody else, like, how do they step up? How do they look in the offense, right? And that's another thing, and that's why it's so, like, heavily leaning towards the offense right now, is just when you look at, like, how much turnover we've had, how much we're really excited to see this new system, and we're not even scratching the surface of what this offense can be and how it can look and how dynamic it can be. We've barely scratched the surface of that so far in only one preseason game that we didn't even play the full game on. So, the offense overall and those things, we're really looking at the wide receivers. How does the balance shake out there? Does Colin Johnson continue to look good? Who gets the most snaps at quarterback and how they look? The quarterback two battle as well that's brewing up between Brett Rippon and Tyson Bagent as well. And does Austin Reed get involved in that a little bit more, who, was ready to start being the quarterback before that game ended in the last preseason game? So, those things are really big stories for the Bears heading into that on the offensive side of the ball. That offensive line, which I mentioned, the wide receiver, the running back two battle, right? And the balance between the offense. Does Shane Waldron's offense continue to look as good? And how much do these quarterbacks continue to grasp it, right? If Caleb Williams is playing, does he seem to have that same command and understanding of the offense that Brett Rippon had in his snaps there? That's something really big to look at as well. Now, when you flip that to the defensive side of the ball, there's a lot of storylines on the defensive side of the ball. I, for one, the depth pieces in that secondary did not show up the way that I hoped they were going to show up. in that first preseason game. I think they were going to come out more aggressive in the second half. So we really didn't get to see much of that. But that those continue. We know the starters there, and we know what we can bring from the starters. Now I'm excited to see the starters in that secondary as well, to see just how suffocating they truly are in that secondary. But the depth pieces are going to be a big part of that as well, right? When players have to sit down, God forbid a player has to sit out a game, how trusted can they be? Can Stroman, Terrell Smith, can these guys still be as trusted as what they were last season? And to see if they've grown their games a little bit more as well, right? So the secondary is going to be a big part of how I'm, because I think the secondary, we have one of the better secondaries and one of the probably the best young core as far as the secondaries in the NFL. Kevin Byard, ups that age in that group a lot, but like to really see what that looks like for this team in that second preseason game is something I'm looking at heavily. And then the defensive line. We got a lot of players on that defensive line that we're still really trying to see exactly how much they've either grown, how they're going to be able to contribute to the depth of the team. And Javon Dexter is one of the biggest parts of that. We've heard so much about Javon Dexter. If we're going over one breakout star so far in training camp by what we've heard, yeah, Caleb Williams gets that wholeheartedly because he's the quarterback. But Javon Dexter's right there behind him, right? So we're expecting a big season from Javon Dexter, and we're hoping for it. And so to see how Javon Dexter, when he's out there, how much does he bully those other offensive linemen, that's going to be a big part of it as well. But we got other questions on the defensive line. Austin Booker snaps look so good despite only registering a tackle for a loss, but it looks so good in there, what he's done, what he's doing. And so, as he continues to maybe even show, maybe he can earn a starting role, right? Or maybe he ends up being one of the third edge, the first one to come off the bench, which is still going to get you a lot of opportunities. But Austin Booker, make no mistake about it, right? The Bears not getting a veteran edge so far to go on the opposite side, it comes down to their confidence, either Javon Dexter from that pressure from the interior defensive line and how that's going to help the edges, or it also comes from the guys like Jacob Martin, DeMarcus Walker, Austin Booker. How much are they bringing at that edge position and where the Bears feel confident about that? But then I'm still looking for some other names as well on the defensive line. We heard that Dominique Robinson has looked good. We even heard as much as this week he's looked really good again, right? And Eric Washington has used him even on the interior defensive line. So does that continue? How many snaps does he get out there and play? How does he look in his time out there? And I'm still excited to see Keith Randolph Jr. That's still another guy that I'm really excited to see how that shakes out for him, because he's an undrafted free agent that I do think has the chance to make the final 53-man roster. Now, it's a chance he ends up being on the practice squad, and the Bears are going to hope that another team doesn't come in and swoop him up at that point in time. But Keith Randolph Jr. is another guy that I'm really looking forward to on that defensive line to just see what he can bring. And then in the linebacking core, we know the starters there, not really looking for too much. I know what they're going to bring outside of the general excitement of seeing our starters. I'm not going to focus really on that, but Noah Sewell, these guys, Micah, to see what those guys are really bringing to this team as the depth pieces, right, that we need. It's going to be a big thing for this Bears team as well. So there's really stuff at every level that you can look at. And like I say during preseason, I'm not necessarily looking at to take a huge amount away from it or what it means when the regular season starts, but the process, right? Those are the things that I'm looking for to see how that makes sense for the Bears. And we'll see if that continues, man. Of course, with Hard Knocks, we're going to get a little bit of extra look at certain things, but I'm excited to see what guys bring, man. Micah Baskerville is a guy I'm really excited about overall. Want to see what he brings. Zach Pickens, I didn't mention him. Still, how many opportunities does he bring in? And to this team? But Terrell Smith, Elijah Hicks, Greg Stroman Jr. I think Jonathan Owens is back too. He may be playing in this game. There's some people that doubt if he can make the team. I don't know where that's coming from, but to see those guys and just the process, right? Again, the coaching. That's a big part of what I'm looking for in these preseason games is the methodology between the coaches, right? What are we doing? What are some of the things that we're trying to instill, and how our play style is going to look as far as the framework of it? It's going to look very different with the level of talent that you have out there, but the framework of it, that's a key thing that I'm looking out for. Now, one of the groups that I talked about as far as the wide receiver group, is looking at that and what we're going to, get out of that from the depth pieces out of the side, the top three. But the top three is loaded, right? We know that we have some of the best talent that we've ever had at the wide receiver position in Chicago Bears history, and that's not even hyperbole. But Rome Odunze is the rookie there, is the guy that everybody's kind of looking at. DJ Moore got his contract. I think everybody's come to the realization that that Keenan Allen's here for a one and done season. And so this is about a lot of how much can Rome Odunze grow his game and use the luxury that he has of having those two veteran guys there during his rookie season to help set him up for next year. And so Keenan Allen and the wide receiver coach talked about Rome and his role, and they said this. Keenan Allen saying this, he's polished. You don't have to teach him how to play wide receiver. He came in and he knew how to play the game. He was well coached in college, and all he has to do now is learn the offense versus, how to get lined up and release. He already knows how to do that. So give him the play and watch him work. Now, this was also solidified by the Bears wide receiver coach, Chris Beatty, who said this. We just talked about that a week ago as far as his role as the number 3 wide receiver. He said, hey, don't get comfortable about being in that role. Like, you should be trying to take these guys' spots, empowering your young players. And that is something that I know that the staff has changed, but that we have done consistently since being under Matt Eberflus. It's not about where you were drafted at. It's not even about if you were drafted, if you look in the case of like a Jack Sanborn. It's about how much can you bring to this team and what's the talent level there. And we want to empower you. We want to implore these position battles to get the best out of everybody that's there and that's in a Chicago Bears uniform. And so, to hear that they're trying to push and for basically say, hey, Rome, don't get too comfortable in being the wide receiver 3. You should be trying to take over the wide receiver 2, take over the wide receiver 1 role. And we'll see what Keenan Allen can do, man. We'll see. Reportedly, it's recently from a couple of Bears writers that Keenan Allen actually would like to stay in Chicago. This was reported as of the 6th, which was a couple of days ago, from Patrick K. Flowers, that said that Keenan Allen actually wouldn't mind staying here. And he even talked about how Rome's locked in, Caleb's locked in, Cole Kmet's locked in, and DJ Moore's locked in, and feeling like he understands what his role is going to be. And listen, that's something that wasn't initially reported, right? Like Keenan Allen, people thought that he was going to want his money and he could be priced out with the market changing. And, with changing agents, which came out with this one's from ESPN's Dan Graziano. He says this: Allen recently changed agents, and with 1 year, $18 million left on his contract, he has approached the team about an extension, but so far, they haven't made progress on that front. So it seems like maybe even Keenan Allen's mindset has changed, but is he willing to take a pay cut? Probably not. We'll talk about later on in this episode how Ryan Poles is really kind of lining up all the contracts to coincide with when Caleb Williams is probably going to get his big contract extension. And that's that forward thinking from a GM that I like. But overall, to get back on the Rome concept aspect of things, I would love for us to be saying by the end of the season, Rome Odunze is not the wide receiver 3, he's the wide receiver 2. And if you get to the point of saying that he's the wide receiver 1, the Bears better goddamn well be a playoff team, and we better win a playoff battle. But everybody is invested in the development of Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze and what they can be as a tandem. And that's not something that we've had here a lot in Chicago. So growing those two guys together, having the veteran and DJ Moore now locked in for a handful of years, let's go ahead and get this done. And so I'm glad to hear that the coaching staff and other players are empowering Rome Odunze because, listen, Rome, the sky's the limit for Rome. And we're going to see what we get out of it. Now, with that said, before we leave off in this episode and get to the mailbag, we got one more topic left to be, and that is talking about what is Ryan Poles planning to do with the offensive line. When you look at the last couple of years for Ryan Poles, what he's done every offseason is he's gone out and gotten what the Bears are theoretically missing at that point in time, right? When he got Chase Claypool, 2022, it was a lot of questions on the Bears wide receiver core. He traded for Chase Claypool. It didn't work out, but he tried to be aggressive at going out there and getting a guy to help solve one of the issues. In 2023, we came out of the first preseason game knowing that our pass rush wasn't where it is. He went out and got Yannick Ngakoue, and then even at the deadline that year, before the trade deadline, he noticed it still was not where the Bears want. He went out and got a linchpin and a building block on that defensive line of Montez Sweat. Right now, the question is the offensive line. So will Ryan Poles go out and be aggressive again? And keep in mind, Poles has been masterful as well. We talked about how Poles can waive Larry Borom and get the $3 million off the books. But now the fact that they've restructured DJ Moore's contract in him signing that contract extension to where they basically converted all of his salary for this year into a signing bonus, it's actually freed up even more money and flexibility for the Chicago Bears. The Bears went from having, I think, around $11 million in cap space to now over $20 million in cap space, which means that they may not even have to cut Larry Borom to go out and add a veteran piece to this team. And I think that that's intentional. I don't know that it's going to be done before the season, but look out around before that trade deadline if the offensive line continues to have its issues, whether it's injuries, whether it's whatever, that flexibility now that we have, that we have in that $20 million in that space, that is more than enough to be aggressive to go out there on the market. And keep in mind with this, we only have 3 players on our team making over $20 million in Tremaine Edmonds, Keenan Allen, and Montez Sweat as a cap hit, right? Those cap hits, the salaries are a little bit less than that. So because of that, that is a huge amount of flexibility for the Bears in this season to use, whether it does come to free agents, whether it does come to taking on money and salary in deals. Ryan Poles continues to set himself up to have the flexibility that's needed to add to your team on the go. And that is something, again, that we have not typically had here, is that foresight from a GM of the Chicago Bears. So getting that is great, right? You got to give it to him. When you look at it right now, the Bears are really in a place to where if a team needs to sell off a contract because of whether it's future cap space or they're right up against it, the Poles is right there, and the Bears are right there to be able to take advantage of that and absorb a guy if they need to do. There's guys with the Kansas City Chiefs right now that they can end up moving on from as well, with that said, right? So, when you look at targets that the Bears can go after, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, these are guys that the Bears could absolutely go after to try to shore up that offensive line. And so, that flexibility that Poles has maintained here is really, really, really good. And we'll see what comes out of that. But Poles continues to operate like a GM that has foresight. And that is when you get talent in here, when you get the right guys, and you maintain flexibility, that's how you can start adding to your team. And the something that is a shortcoming of your team right now may not be the shortcoming by the end of the season because of the flexibility that Ryan Poles continues to have for the Chicago Bears team. But you guys can let me know what you guys think on that down below. Now, with that said, we got one voicemail that we want to get into today. This one is from starting to become one of my favorite callers. That's Coach C.
What's up, fellas? This is Coach C calling in. I've just been sitting back, watching everything, listening, finally got caught up to everybody, and it's a couple of takes that I just wanted to respond to and then see what you guys think. Before I get started, though, I definitely want to say shout out to Marifa Assad. I heard your voicemail last week. I was standing up and applauding, brother. Great call, great feedback. But I have some stuff I want to chime in on as a coach and just looking over X's and O's, and I'm going to see what you guys think. I think one of the biggest mistakes that we got as Bears fans is that we look at Velus Jones as a wide receiver. He is not a wide receiver. He is a prototypical scat back, zone killer. They never gave him the full route tree. He does not run a full route tree. He's a guy that you put in the game to kill zones and beat man coverage. So if you're playing zone, he's sitting a whole 5-yard route, turn it into 7. He catches swings out the backfield. He'll run reverses. He do stuff like that to beat matchups. He's a matchup killer. The Bears finally have a coaching staff in place that knows how to use him to his skill set. He is not going to be the receiver that you line up wide and run the route tree. And in college, they recruited him as an athlete. He was positionless. So the Bears are now in a position where they got a coaching staff that can use him. Secondly, Braxton Jones is a good NFL tackle. If Braxton Jones was on a free agent market, he'd be getting an $80 million to $100 million deal by any team that needs a left tackle. He's good. This year coming up, and I'm a Fields fan, but I can look at football objectively and realize that he held on the ball too long. In this new offense with Caleb Williams getting his ball out in 3 seconds, you're going to see Braxton Jones almost play at a Pro Bowl tackle, at a Pro Bowl level. He's going to get the ball out. He's got to block for 3 seconds. He's going to be all right. That's one thing that we do not have to worry about. The injury thing, he was on IR one time over a neck injury. That's it. Outside of that, he's played every other snap. As a rookie, he played every single snap. He's going to be fine. I also think the writing on the wall is for Keenan Allen. He won't be back next year. This is a one-and-done signing. Poles is doing a great job of strategically putting every contract where it's about to expire within the next 4 years. So after 4 years, because they're going to have to spend money on re-signing Caleb Williams, he's doing a masterful job of putting everything together. And I agree with most of you guys. Khalil Herbert, he looks like he's going to be trade bait. They're going to feature him. They're going to move him because there's going to be running back injuries in the preseason, and he's going to be moved. With the Bears expecting to have a backfield of Swift, Roschon Johnson, who I don't think is fast enough, but he has a role. And I think Velus Jones is going to be getting a lot of carries out the backfield. And they may not be carries, they may be swing passes, because in the West Coast offense, a 4-yard swing pass is just as good as a 4-yard run. You can thank Andy Reid for that because he made that famous. All right, boys, I'm going to sit back. I love the show. I love the content. I love talking X and O's with you guys. Let me know what you guys think. Coach C out.
Listen, I understand. I don't agree with everything that you said, but I understand where you're coming from an X's and O's standpoint and everything. As far as Velus Jones, like, listen, I don't have very much faith in Velus. When you say he's not a wide receiver, I get where you're coming at with that. But the thing is the backfield's filled. And the thing is going to come down to is how much do they look. Now, he's been injured, so that may take him out the running, but they could use Ian Willer in a very similar role to what you laid out for Velus Jones. So it's that type of thing that puts Velus in a situation where it's questionable. Now, I will say this, the fact that they are getting creative and trying to find different ways to use him other than just saying go out there and you're either returning kicks or being a wide receiver, that does say something about what this coaching staff does, not only just for Velus Jones, but how they'll maximize talent going forward as long as they're running the Chicago Bears team. That's, again, a good sign for the team. We'll see what it means for Velus. As far as Braxton isn't bad. And that's something that I've said. I feel like the conversations and criticisms for Braxton went too far left, where there are some serious criticisms for him. I know you said that he played every snap his rookie year, but yeah, missing 6 games in year 2 while also not really improving much. I don't know if he'll get the money that you said out in free agency if he was a free agent, but Braxton is a solid enough starter. The question is how do you support other things around him? But I love what you called out there as far as Braxton getting better with having a quarterback that gets the ball out quicker. That helps the offensive line overall because you're not having to hold up those blocks as long. So we could see Braxton Jones really surprise and take that next step of his game where he's even more impactful because of the overall changes and better center play as well of this team. Let's hope the offensive line is better overall. Now, as far as Keenan Allen and Khalil Herbert, I think both of them are out of there long term, right? Khalil, he could be trade bait when it comes down to it, and that could be what the Bears, use out there to go out and get something else that they want, while also having the flexibility of taking back a lot of salary with our cap space that we have. So that's definitely something that we have there. And the preparation for signing Caleb Williams to his long-term extension, just smart. They're lining up all those deals, as you said, and it gives them an evaluation period. Now, it could get pricey for them to where they're giving out a lot of big money deals all at the same time, but you want to maintain that flexibility because, listen, if Caleb works out the way that people want him to and the way that it seems like he's going to, then yeah, he's going to get paid and he's going to deserve that, and the Bears need to pay the man. And so, but you still need to be able to field a team around him. And so, again, Ryan Poles is showing the ability to maintain flexibility. That goes forward into the future as well. So, agree with everything. Great voicemail there, Coach C. I'll tell you guys how you can leave a voicemail here in a second. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down, y'all. Love you guys. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.